By the end of this century, if emissions keep rising, the average temperature on Earth could go up another 4 to 8 degrees. What I'm saying is the planet's on fire.
Hey guys, what's up? My name is Humana, and today I would like to talk to you guys about the recent weather events that you've probably been seeing on the news. But before I start, I just wanted to let you guys know that I will be posting 3 videos a week for the month of August. So if you guys want to learn more stuff, you guys should subscribe and turn on your post notifications. But anyways, let's just jump into it. There's been a lot of extreme weather events that you've probably been seeing on the news lately, and yeah, climate change. There's been an unusual number of fires in the Arctic region in countries like Siberia, Scandinavia, Greenland, and Alaska, and they've been raging all summer. In fact, one estimate says that about 50 million tons of CO2 was released through these fires in just the month of June. And so things are definitely heating up. A couple weeks ago, we heard of the heat wave that hit parts of Europe, causing temperatures around Paris and Cambridge, England, raising to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And while some people could just say like, hey, yeah, I'm from California or I'm from Arizona and we get that weather all the time, it's normal, it's fine. It's important to note that those countries aren't used to that type of heat. So most of their buildings and infrastructure isn't built with ACs or advanced cooling systems. So this was actually a pretty devastating effect for them since they're not really used to this weather, but that's what climate change is going to bring to the table. So we're going to have to learn to adapt. But the main thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about today is the Greenland ice that melted. So back in June, they were already seeing some red flags as they had already lost 2 billion tons of ice melt in just the month of June, which is very unprecedented for Greenland because they usually don't start losing a lot of ice until later in the summer, like late July or August-ish time. And so in the month of June, they lost 2 billion tons of ice. And just to give you guys like a little comparison, 1 billion tons of ice melt is equivalent to 400,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So that's a lot of water that is now entering the ocean, and it's going to greatly impact sea level rise. But that wasn't even the worst of it, because in just one day alone, they lost 12.5 billion tons of ice melt, and that's in one day. Now, that brought up the number to a staggering 197 billion tons of ice melt just from this summer alone. And while, yeah, it'll even it out in the winter and stuff, and they'll get more snowfall, it is very unlikely that they're going to get anywhere near as much snow as they previously had in Greenland. And one of the reasons that Greenland is going to greatly impact sea level rise from all of this ice melt, Greenland is an island, which means that all of the ice in Greenland sits on top of land. So, you know, like when you have a cup of water and you put ice in it, the sea level or the level of water goes up because that ice is displacing its weight in water. In contrast, the Arctic, for example, is just floating ice. So the Arctic isn't, if it melts, it's going to impact ocean currents, but it's not going to impact sea level rise because it's already displaced its weight in water. So it's a pretty, big deal that Greenland lost that much ice. All right, so I'm just going to show you guys a clip real quick of a senior research scientist talking and explaining to you why the Greenland ice melt is so important and how it's going to impact weather patterns.
In Climate Watch, nearly half of Greenland's ice sheet began melting this week after an unprecedented warm spell hit the Arctic region. Temperatures were more than 40 degrees above average, leading to an estimated 2 billion tons of ice loss. Usually this type of melting doesn't occur until midsummer, and if it happens at all, well, experts believe that this early melting could impact weather on a global scale. Joining us now from Boulder, Colorado is Ted Scambos. He's a senior research scientist at the University of Colorado, Boulder's Earth Science Observation Center. Why do you think it is that these ice sheets are so important in maintaining global temperatures?
Yeah, it's because of the basic setup of the Earth's climate. There's warmth at the tropical regions, and the poles are supposed to be cold and white and radiate a lot of heat away. And that sets up a big circulation pattern that leads to all of the things that we think are common to weather, like the trade winds in the south and the fact that most of the storms come from the west, say in the United States or Europe. And then in the poles, there are different wind patterns. Those things happen because the poles are cold. And if we start to warm the poles and change that ice cover, we change the entire dynamic of the Earth's climate. That's beginning to happen with more severe storms, more persistent weather patterns, longer droughts. All of that stuff is dependent on the fact that the ice on the ocean in the Arctic and the ice on Greenland are more or less the way they used to be, or we're going to see big changes.
All right, so he did, I think, a really good job explaining it in as short of a time period as that was, because it's a really these are really complex systems, and I could probably do a whole entire series just on how these systems work, because it's very complex. It's not just straightforward like, oh, summer, winter, fall, whatever. Like, there's a reason that these things are how we experience them. And so I understand that people have a fear of the unknown, and people tend to deny climate change because they don't understand these systems. And so what I wanted to do was look at the other side and see how they view climate change and see what their points of view are. Because, I mean, there has to be a reason that the whole entire world, besides the US, is on board and agrees that climate change is an issue worth addressing on a global scale, and yet somehow people in the media and in power whose pockets are being lined with money from the coal industries are denying it. Like, there has to be a deeper meaning, guys. Like, it's not, like, it's not like Mexico and Canada can completely agree that climate change is an issue, but like, it's just completely gonna skip over the US. Like, there's no way. Like, so I had to, take a little gander and see what their point of view is on why they keep saying that climate change isn't real. So let me just show you guys this clip from Propaganda News, and then we'll talk about it for a sec.
What do you think?
He's a shock jock scientist. He's trying to make a buck, doesn't even have a PhD.
Really? He doesn't have a PhD?
No, he has a bachelor's.
Well, that's why
I have a bachelor's.
He's not called Dr. Bill
No,
Nye.
he's not
He's just
doctor.
called the science
No,
guy.
I mean, he's a sketch comedy artist, and he's an entertainer, and he's been doing this for a long time. He has a Netflix special out, Bill Nye Saves the World, so he's got a very healthy ego, maybe even healthier than mine. But all these predictions about that's a close call. Everyone's been wrong. They've said mass extinction, we're all going to be underwater, ice age, heat wave. No one's ever been right.
So it doesn't bother you when we saw that report last week that said that there are all of these species that are in danger of extinction? You don't want that.
No, I'm for animals. I have a puppy. I don't want him going extinct. But, the planet renews itself, and I just am doubtful that man is causing the warming, because these experts have been saying this for years. So when someone tells me who's an expert, I need to give them all of my money or else the world's going to end, I'm just a little suspicious.
All right.
All right, guys. So there's a lot of things that I can definitely comment on in just that video clip, but I'm just going to point out two real quick. So the planet renews itself. I get it. Like, it does. Like, if you understand the complex systems of how things work in the environment and how weather patterns fluctuate and shift, like, yeah, you know what? Like, it does renew itself. But the only reason that I know how they work is because I went to college and got my bachelor's degree in environmental science, and I took a whole bunch of climate classes to learn about it. And now I don't expect the average person to do the same, because like, it obviously depends on the subjects and stuff that you're drawn to. But I have a hard time grasping the idea that a communications major would know a lot more about how the planet renews itself than me, who like legitimately knows how the systems work, Or Bill Nye, who was a literal engineer, and not just any engineer, he was a mechanical engineer, which means he knows about fluid dynamics and understands those relationships. And not only that, he also worked for Boeing. And let me just say that anyone who has their pilot's license, and I'm not saying that Bill Nye was a pilot, but like, in order to work with planes, you have to know how the weather works. You have to know the systems that run the weather, because otherwise you won't know how high or low you should be flying. You won't know if it's safe or not to fly, because you really do have to know a lot about weather in order to operate planes, or in order to, fly safely. Or somehow people assume that science got things perfectly right for some categories and not others. So, like, we know enough about weather to fly planes, but we don't know enough about climate to predict it. Also, I love how he called out mass extinction, sea level rise, and heat waves. And 2 of those things are currently happening. And the third one, I don't know if she was interviewing him or what, because I don't regularly watch that show. His co-star questioned him about the mass extinction, and he just brought up puppies, because, like, who doesn't love puppies? But yeah, so that is the argument on the side of this is all a hoax, because for some reason having the hottest years on record being the last couple years is not enough to say that the climate is changing. Not to even mention the fact that we have been recording weather, and we have reconstructed weather for the past thousands of years. So somehow we still don't know enough, but you trust scientists enough to know that if you buy a plane ticket and get on the plane, you're gonna fly and you're gonna be good. All right, guys, that is it for today. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that I have taught you something about what is happening in the world. I really did try to look at it from both sides. Like, I watched multiple clips, but this is pretty much, it sums up what their point of view is against climate change. And like, the things that have been happening kind of tell me that their points of view probably have something to do with the people lining their pockets, but it's just a hunch. Anyways, I hope that I taught you something. Don't forget to hug a tree, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.